Sounds of Stadia podcast, episode number 94, where you join myself, Chris, alongside my beautiful co-host, the man of many pixels, Mr. Richie.
It's really warm, I don't like it.
It is really warm. We're not going to get in the weather. We're not going to get in the weather. You're here, ladies and gentlemen, for, of course, episode 94 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast, where we round up all of the Stadia and gaming news for your listening or viewing pleasure, depending on where you tune in. It might be youtube.com/Sounds of Stadia, or it might be checking us out there in the digital cloud on all available podcast services. Don't forget to like the video, give us a subscribe if you are watching over on YouTube, and if you want to give this channel a little bit extra support, do click join. Join us as a member. Like over 50 of you do now. We wholeheartedly appreciate it. You're all awesome. And we'll give some shout outs for some of our newest members just in a moment. But before all that, we do have a great show lined up for you all, as this is the longest running Stadia podcast this side of Google Maps. It is up to episode 94, Richie. We're creeping ever so closer to that magic 100 mark. And we should probably start planning for some stuff.
Yeah, we should. It's getting close.
Yeah, it's getting a bit too close for my liking. Actually, no, it's not too close. But we've got a great show for you. As I said, we're going to be rounding up all of the gaming news. We're going to be talking about Assassin's Creed going online and huge. We'll be talking about that. We're going to be bringing you all of the gaming rated news for Stadia. We're going to be talking about pricing conversations, Richie. It's been a bit of a spicy one this week for getting the price right or wrong. We're going to be talking about CD Projekt Red purchasing a new studio and what it could possibly mean for the future. A couple of issues down the road with games not working, apparently, heading into last weekend. And, of course, we couldn't really start this episode without mentioning the football. You're all tuning in Monday morning after the final for the Euro 2020, which took place in 2021 competition. England versus Italy. Two titans in the footballing world. Well done, everyone.
Dare I be brave and go, fantastic England, you brought it home. Dare I be brave enough to say that right here and now.
See, we should always disclose that we record these episodes early. A lot of you already know that. This episode has actually been recorded super early, so we know we're in the final, but we don't know how the result went as per usual. Yeah. So, well done. You did your country proud no matter what the result, and hopefully, unless it's like 10-0, Richie, and then we'll come back in here and record some crazy hyper.
If they lose 10-0, it's still the first England team to get to a final of a major tournament in our lifetime.
See, as a true England fan, you presumed I meant England lost 10-0. I thought if we won 10-0, we'll come in and re-record another one. That's just classic.
If we win 10-0, this intro's getting re-recorded.
Yeah, 100%. We'll come back, we'll cut it, edit it.
Yeah.
If we didn't win, you're stuck with the episode version you just listened to.
Yeah.
If
we win 9-0, you're stuck with this.
Now I feel bad about saying that, but either way, you're not here for football conversation. You're here for Stadia conversation, and that's what we do here at Sounds of Stadia. So then, Richie, before we always start and get into the meat and potatoes of the news, we like to break down, have a little bit of catch up. We talk throughout the week all the time anyway. We talk with our community throughout the week all the time. Over on our Discord channel, of course. Anyone who is new, is tuning in for the first time and thinking, I like Stadia, I like cloud gaming. You know what? In fact, I just like talking about games full stop. Where could they go, Richie?
In the description below, you will find a link to our Discord server.
Indeed. And in that Discord server, we talk about games. Quite frankly, we talk about anything that just happens to be in the news, except for politics. We keep politics out of it and all that other stuff.
It's a gaming-only place.
It's a gaming only. Yeah, gaming only. Although we have added a new channel, which is for podcast questions, because we always want to get the audience more involved, and we don't always have time for it. But if you do want to jump in on the Discord, we do have a new server added up and set up for questions. And if you've ever listened along and thought, I've got a great question for Chris, Tom, or Richie, send it in there, and we may answer it. We may not have time. Again, apologies. I'm sure we'll get loads of questions. We don't always have time. The Stadia news and stories of the week will take precedence over it, but we'll try and...
If it's a particular spicy question, it might even get its own episode of SideQuest.
Yes, we should point that out as well. If it's a great topical conversation, we'll pluck that one out of the bag and we'll put it on its own little shelf and we'll come back to it later, hoping it's not past the sell-by date and it's still relevant and we can use it. But that is the plan. We want to get you more involved, and like I said, there's over 50 of us supporters on the membership channel, so thank you very, very much. But, Richie, this week we have been playing games. Our pro games got dropped. I've checked out some of them. We've got new big games drop. We've played some more of them. So to kick things off, shout out to our community. I know we've just said like shout out to our members and stuff, but the wider community as a whole. We played some more Rainbow Six Siege this past Thursday, a little bit earlier than usual. We will 100% be playing more Rainbow Six Siege because it's so damn good. When you get a good group of people,
it's so fun.
So fun. We did some operations, we did some custom matches, 5v5, all Stadia players. Forget newcomer mode if you're terrible at the game, and newcomer mode isn't even for you as a newcomer. It's not for me either. We jump back in, set up some custom games. If you're in the chat, there's a chance to play. You're more than welcome to join us. So if you're a Siege player out there, you're having difficulty finding games, crossplay or not crossplay, tune in for our streams and you can get in and have a chance to play. And whew.
While on the topic of Siege in our community, I saw a couple of games getting organised while we were away last weekend, which was nice to see within the community.
Oh yes, was that in our Discord again?
Yep, that was from our Discord.
It's a magic.
So if you join our Discord, you'll find people to play with.
It's a magical place, just like Tahiti. But yes, Rainbow Six Siege, very excited. It's getting me hyped for Extraction, which we're not too far away from Extraction now as well. But just jumping in with friends and shooting each other. Like,
It doesn't like to shoot the friends.
Yeah, is there not more pure, honest fun than that? We're starting to get a little bit better with tactics. You're the cameraman, Richie. You lie on the deck and send out your little remote control cars. I found my nice technique is I like to use the little clones. So when you're defending, you put a clone in the corner. Someone bursts in the room, sees it, shoots at that, and you're in the other corner waiting for them to shoot at your clone. It's a great tactic.
Well, on the fence, you might want to try out the character I was using because she has a clone, but you can move it, you control it.
You're right.
So that's how sometimes I'll drop my clone and run ahead into a room. They suddenly start firing, but then I can see where they are before I go in. That might be a good strategy for you.
Yeah, there's so many operatives to choose from. In fact, let us know in the comments who your favourite operative is so far. Have you got a suggestion for the best one, or just let us know your tactics? So then, when you play against me and Richie on a Thursday night, we'll have the inside scoop.
An advantage.
I mean, I think we need a lot of advantages until we go pro. I don't think we're quite at esports level, Richie. We're maybe
2 weeks.
Yeah, maybe dial it down once the football's over.
We're failure sports.
Yeah, once the football's over, we can bring it up a level when we can focus all our energy on Rainbow Six Siege. I've played actually across tablet and phone just to check out it. I know there's a lot of praise going out there for its performance. The ping is the lowest you'll see even across crossplay. Crossplay. 9, 10.
We had a game where everyone on our server had a ping of 9 because we're all on Stadia servers localized. So
yeah, that's awesome. And if you don't know what ping is, it's basically the time it takes for you to make an input, and the input gets to the game. And the smaller the number, the better.
Latency people complain about.
Yeah, all that latency you get on Stadia.
We now have a metric, and it's very, very low.
Incredibly low. So that was great. That was fun. Like I said before, we'll be playing more of it in the future. So if you didn't get a chance to jump in, sorry, but there's always going to be more opportunities in the future. But that was Rainbow Six Siege. Richie, I want to throw it over to you and just see what you've been playing aside from Rainbow Six with me. What else you've been checking out?
So after a long time, because I bought it, I think it was in November, I think the game came out, and I bought it on launch, but finally I've jumped into Immortals Phoenix Rising.
Finally? You're going to catch up?
Like, getting close to a year late, but 9 months or something? 9 months?
Yeah, we joked about that on previous shows with how much you bought the game outright as brand new, and it was what, £12 in the Stadia store last week?
Yeah, I think it was last week because it was on my list of games I wanted to look into. But I think I had a list of a couple of different games. He's a list of games, and I put a Twitter poll out there. It was overwhelming. Immortals Phoenix Rising, so that's what I went with.
Good. So and I'm loving it. Great choice. Yeah. Go for it.
After the end of last year, I was playing Cyberpunk and Valhalla, so I kind of got burnt out on big Ubisoft style open world games a bit. So in the Immortals games, I want something different. Yeah. But now I'm back in that mood.
Yeah, it comes in waves.
Yeah.
And I know completely what you feel. I'm kind of similar with Mass Effect at the moment, where I finished 1. I didn't want to go straight onto 2, so I gave myself a little bit of a break. Completed Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Beautiful game, and now I'm just trying to find the time to get back into a big meaty title. I've got a lot of stuff going on outside of gaming this summer. It's a very busy summer for me. So,
do you find the same as me? It's when you start a new game, you need a good run up. You want to get a good 4 hours or something to get straight into the game.
Yeah,
and in a single run before you get. Then you can, once you get your hands on the sticks for a couple of hours, then you can start chipping away.
Yeah, I need like a solid Friday night run at things from like 7 o'clock through till 2 in the morning or something. So to really, to get your hooks in you and get a lay for the land, the controllers, the mission structure, all that kind of stuff.
Tutorial.
Yeah, which is why games like Siege are fantastic. That you can just jump in, bash out a couple of matches, and then move on essentially, or move on to bigger things. So my intention is to get back to Mass Effect 2. Surprise shout out though, I really want to give an honest shout out to the Darkside Detective, which is, I did it on Twitter already, and it's one of those games that I didn't really pay that much attention. I love the art style from when we first seen it, but it never really struck me as something that I would buy. So it dropping as a pro game, of course we were supposed to get it a month early on a pro game. It's very much a point and click adventure. Haven't played one of them for absolutely decades, since I was a child, and we used to play those educational ones in school on the Acorn PCs, Richie. Magical Rainforest or whatever it was called. Oh, Crystal Rainforest. Crystal Rainforest. Wow, there's a throwback for you, to you 90s kids.
Google, bring it back.
Bring it back. But Darkside Detective, it's point and click adventure. It features Francis McQueen as the detective, and he's got Detective Officer Dooley as a sidekick. It's got very fun, nostalgic tropes. It throws back to like movie, TV references. Ghostbusters is in there. Famous quotes from history. Just loads of funny in-jokes, but the comedic writing in it is hilarious. I played a few missions myself, a few case files, I should say. Even on the video right now, there's a clown called Pound Smart, and it's clearly Pennywise, a little inside joke on that. There's a couple of puzzles in there, but yeah, I played a few cases myself, and then interesting enough, I went and played a few games with my wife, who is not a gamer, but she enjoys a few games. She's enjoyed the Uncharted games. The Telltale ones are a bit of a slower pace. Astrobot on the PS5 was awesome, but with this being a point-and-click adventure, it was one that I thought, it's not going to take too much interaction, so we can just sit back together and play side by side and kind of theorise what the mission is and what we need to do to complete the objective in the point-and-click. Definitely should have used a mouse and keyboard, but we chilled on the living room couch and played it. And the funniest thing we did is we give everyone a voice, all the characters talking, and we did a voice each, back and forth, trying out every impression we possibly had in our repertoire. And Detective Dooley for me was an Irish police officer, and we just, I do a good Irish accent. I'm not going to do it here, folks, but it's true. And we just went back and forth. We ended up making ourselves absolutely laugh with hysterics, and it was great. We got through 3 cases, gradually getting more difficult. We played it for a good couple of hours, and it was just something that I did not expect, and I was pleasantly surprised. And I think without the Pro subscription, which was our SideQuest episode last week, does it need a reboot? I think as far as the games go, as long as you're open to playing something that's not AAA, I think you made a point saying you love the fact that it's indie games last week.
Yeah, I was like, it needs to be not just indie games, but I do like that you get, even go back to PS Plus, like, it's nice to get these games when you look at, I've got a couple of hours, I don't fancy playing this big AAA title, I'll jump into this, and sometimes you get hooked. Yeah. But if you're not willing to give these games a try, and sometimes if they don't come to something like Stadia Pro, you'll just pass them by. Yeah, it's definitely got me keen to now check out the sequel. I've got 3 case missions left. I'll probably play them with the wife. And then I think we'll wrap up. And I think it's only like £12 for the sequel now, which is quite a newer release. So you've done it. Brilliant. Pro works. It's got me back in the door with something else. But, of course, we're not here to talk about pro games. We did that last week. We're here to talk about the meat, the thick, juicy meat that is... Richie? The super sexy special Stadia story segment. A.K.A. the news.
The news, indeed.
Not going to lie, completely forgot about that then.
Did that? I saw that rabbit in the headlights moment again, where you're thinking. Yeah. I almost expect you to sit back then and go, "Yeah, Tom, where's the? Oh shit, Tom, shit, it's me." Should we just always just edit in an old version of Tom, a different one from a different episode each week? No, I want you to embrace it and take it. I didn't even remember to do it. Yeah, at least you got it right though. You got your words mixed up this time around. Yeah. So the news this week, again, bit of a quiet one in Stadia news, but we've dug deep. Folks, we know you like your news. We try and make it as Stadia-centric as possible. We don't branch out and pull in PlayStation, Xbox and stuff. But if there is a chance it's coming to this platform, you're damn right we're going to talk about it. And Richie, that's what we've done this week. We're recording early. The community blog this week was an absolute empty bin of nothingness. So here we are to talk about all the news we've got for you. And the news this week is sponsored by our 3 newest members to the channel. We got 3 new ones this week, which took us over the 50 mark across our old Patreon subscribers and our members on the YouTube channel. So massive shout out to Lee Ellis. Can't remember if we shouted you out last week, Lee, so you get a double. If not, there you go, Lee Ellis. Stuart Garrard as well, Gerard Garrard. Apologies if I've got your name wrong there, but thank you massively for your support. And Adam Kinder, or Kinder, depends if he's feeling nice or not. That's what his name is this week. Thank you to you 3 gentlemen for joining us on our membership program. You now get a lovely Stadia controller next to your name. The longer you're with us, it'll change colour. You'll go jump up through the ranks. You get access to our super stickers to use in our chat when we do our live streams. And more importantly, you get early access to our episode of SideQuest, which this week, Richie, what are we talking about?
This week we are talking about EA Play and our predictions for it.
Our predictions for EA Play. So that's nearly a week early you get access to it as a member. If not, we don't gatekeep anything behind a paywall, so you will get it eventually. Drops on Fridays. But thank you to those people. You're all awesome. You're all amazing. It makes this hobby much, much easier. And now with our questions and everything else, it's going well. It's going well, Richie. I'm happy. I'm in a good place right now.
Yeah.
We're ready to welcome Tom back with open arms. So before we move on to the actual news, 16 minutes into the show, what's our hashtag for Tom this week? Tom's missing. What sweet nasty love are we sending him on Twitter this week?
So to remind Tom that everyone loves them, hashtag Happy Beans.
Hashtag Happy Beans. So that is at AdaxisLP, ADAXIS, capital L, capital P, hashtag Happy Beans. While Tom is on paternity leave, we're going to send him random shit every week, just so he remembers that we still exist and he has to come back to us at one point.
Yeah.
Happy
also
Monday.
To annoy him, just merely to annoy him.
That too, yeah. Happy Monday, Tom. Happy Monday. Yeah. Who needs parenthood and children when you've got 2 dickhead middle-aged... I was going to say all those middle-aged men then. Men in their... We don't know how long we'll live.
30s.
We don't know how long we'll live. After that England match, my nerves could be shot. I could have a heart attack or something. Who knows? I might still be here. But right, Richie, we've delayed too long. The audience is thinking. I tuned in for Stadia news and think. I know I love these 2 individuals anyway. I tune in every week, like nearly 500 of you do. It's amazing. Stop faffing around and get on with the show. So let's do it. Let's do this. Story number 1. Hold the phone, ladies and gentlemen. Richie, blow that whistle. We need stoppage time for this episode of the podcast because we've had...
Tell me I need a whistle.
We've had some breaking news drop, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. We are here reporting live 1 hour and a little bit before kickoff for the Euro finals. And is it coming home? We don't know yet. We still don't know yet. The rest of this episode, we still don't know yet. But what we do know is coming to Stadia. Breaking news right in the middle of the show. FIFA 22, Richie, is coming to Stadia day and date with next-gen features. You heard it here, probably not first, because that happened yesterday, right before kickoff. What an odd time to drop an announcement for a football sports game right before the Euro final.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm at the point now, I was like, okay, the match kicks off in now in 15 minutes. I'm ready to watch England win the first ever final since 1966. Wait, the Stadia news, FIFA news,
it's big news.
You're looking out of time. Put it that way.
And not only that, we've recorded SideQuest already, which focuses on EA, and they have an EA player coming up, which we expected FIFA to be heavily involved. And out of nowhere, Shadow Drop on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, we might as well cover that straight away. There's an EA Spotlight focusing on more EA Sports on July the 20th. There's a Madden specific one on July the 19th. So that's where I was expecting FIFA news to come from. Yeah, so this not a random Sunday.
Yeah, so this scuppers our our whole episode a little bit. So if the episode is end up being a little bit longer, that's great. On a positive side, we did talk about the Formula 1 news later on in the show. That's going to get cut from the episode completely now. 1, because the audio was messed up on it thanks to a Formula 1 trailer. 2, it's back up and running. So hey ho. Problem fixed, we can cut that out of the episode. But here we are for FIFA 22, Richie. Just to give you a bit of a rundown, all the news we know right now is it's coming day and date, the price, and according to the website, it's coming out October 1st, so not too long after the Premier League season starts for the UK and a lot of European leagues. But here we are, powered by football, EA Sports, FIFA 22 on Stadia moves the game forward with groundbreaking next-gen hypermotion technology that elevates every moment on the pitch. Powered by Hypermotion, FIFA 22 combines advanced 11v11 match capture and proprietary machine learning technology to deliver the most realistic, fluid and responsive football experience for next-gen consoles and Stadia, unlocking the raw motion, passion and physicality of the world's game. Hypermotion technology enabled the integration of the first ever motion capture of 22 professional footballers playing at high intensity. Additionally, EA's proprietary machine learning algorithm learns from more than 8.7 million frames of advanced match capture, then writes new animations in real time to create organic football movements across a variety of interactions on the pitch. Whether it's a shot, a pass or a cross, Hypermotion transforms how players move on and off the ball. So that's all we know right now. The biggest takeaway for me, we said very, very briefly before we started recording this little snippet, is it's in the same conversation with next gen. We've mentioned it on the show,
yes,
the podcast, but if you head over to EA's website, the main splash page literally says FIFA 22 powered by football, groundbreaking hypermotion technology only on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S and Stadia. What a message to send out to those casual sports fans out there.
So FIFA 22 isn't coming to PS4 and it's not coming to Xbox One.
My guess is it definitely is. Just the new hypermotion stuff is next gen. They would never leave.
I was going to say, because that would be an absolute weird decision at this point when people are struggling to get their hands on these consoles. No, we're only going to bring up the new ones.
It was never going to be missing out on like the PS4's 140 plus million install base.
But crucially, we know we're getting the next gen version.
Indeed we are, and we've got prices as well, because they are available to pre-order up on the Stadia store right now.
Yes, and the standard edition is £59.99, and the ultimate plus limited time edition, the ultimate edition plus limited time bonus is £89.99. The limited time bonus, you receive an untradeable Ultimate Team hero item. You'll have 4 days early access. Untradeable Ultimate Team ones to watch items, some FIFA points, Ultimate Team of the Week player, Kylian Mbappe, loan item for Ultimate Team, Ambassador loan player pick for free Ultimate Team matches, career mode, homegrown talent, youth prospects with world class potential. So if you're into Ultimate Team, like really into it, maybe the Ultimate Edition is worthwhile. I think for most people though, probably don't. I wouldn't bother. I personally wouldn't bother. I have no interest at all in Ultimate Team.
Yeah, same here. But we don't know much more about the game at this moment in time. The website in itself does showcase off the machine learning and the new motion capture stuff we've briefly mentioned there. It looks like they're going to do a refresh, as per usual, for Manager, Career Mode, Pro Clubs, FUT, a bunch of other things. Yeah. At the moment, though, it says coming soon. So my guess is this is in the bank for the EA Play event in just over a week's time.
Yeah, I'm a big career mode fan, but sometimes EA come out and go, we're doing a bit of a refresh in career mode, and basically reskin the menus and give you what was the last time we got? It was the negotiations, like mini game thing, which is just literally just slowed down the game. Yeah, so I'm interested in see what you've got. I'll be keeping an eye out on July the 20th to see what you're bringing, but until I see what your plans for career mode are. Yeah, I'm sceptical.
But day and date, we know French superstar Kylian Mbappe is going to be the cover star as well. We learned that earlier in the week. But overall, Richie, great news. Yeah. Another day and date AAA game for the masses as well. All those sports fans out there. Great, love to see it. This, we presume, is that fifth final game. Again, if you go listen to our SideQuest episode, we break down all of that stuff about what we think EA are going to bring. We actually did theorise in the SideQuest spoilers FIFA was the next game in line, and this evidently has proved it. So hopefully it's not the last game we see. But I guess that's it for our little mini break. We've got to go away and prep for the actual real world football match, Richie, of our lifetimes at least.
I must admit, the confirmation of next gen version coming to Stadia has got me a bit more interested in FIFA 22 than I was. I usually typically maybe buy FIFA every other year. Yeah. But I might be willing to go depending what they bring out in the coming weeks. Yeah, I might consider buying it again this year.
So we'll have to wait and find out. I'm sure we're going to find more about EA Play, and we are covering it on this channel as well. But thank you very much for tuning. Why am I ending it like that? There's a whole episode to go after this, Richie.
40 episodes.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of the show, folks. Like, subscribe, comment, let us know below if you are picking up FIFA 22 on Stadia, because, Richie, it might be coming home. It might have already came home by the time you listen to this. But FIFA 22 is certainly coming to Stadia, featuring next-gen features. Enjoy all that. Back to you, future Chris, I guess, or past Chris, whatever. Good luck, England. Bloomberg. But the article I'm going to pull from is the Ubisoft blog directly. Assassin's Creed is going bigger than it's ever gone before. So I'll read direct from the Ubisoft website. From its action-adventure origins to its RPG evolution, Assassin's Creed has shown how the decisions we make now, no matter how big or small, can influence the events of the future. After both Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Assassin's Creed Valhalla shattered records, we find ourselves in that very moment where we know the decisions we're making for the franchise now will impact its future for years to come. Along with our announcement of new content coming for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, whoop whoop, more Valhalla content, we wanted to share some key updates on the talented and creative minds that will be working in collaborative efforts cross-studio structure between Ubisoft Montreal and Ubisoft Quebec that will guide, grow and evolve and define the overall future of Assassin's Creed. That includes an important upcoming alien development project codenamed Assassin's Creed Unity. So the new cross-studio collaborative structure will be led by, I'm not going to try and pronounce the name, someone called Mark, who will serve as executive producer and across the whole franchise, but essentially is one of the founding members of Ubisoft Quebec, and he's been involved in all sorts of stuff. But in a nutshell, Richie, they're giving, they're combining essentially Quebec and Montreal, two of the people behind Origins and Odyssey, so kind of the ones who rejuvenated Assassin's Creed into what it is today. And they're giving them it to say, like, go make Assassin's Creed for the future, long term. And to read again from the article, this change means we're also evolving along with the video games industry. The pandemic, working from home, fundamentally changed the way we produce games, giving us a moment to reflect on our organisation. Assassin's Creed was born within the walls of Montreal and the studio that built the incredible foundation for the franchise with immense skill and creativity of its teams before Ubisoft Quebec even took the lead on Assassin's Creed Syndicate and Odyssey. So rather than continue to pass the baton from game to game, we profoundly believe this is an opportunity for one of Ubisoft's most beloved franchises to evolve and more integrate in a collaborative manner that's less centered on studios and more focused on talent and leadership, no matter who they are within Ubisoft's team. So most importantly, Assassin's Creed has been developed by multicultural teams, etc., different backgrounds, the kind of message you get at the beginning of every game. So in a nutshell, they've done these three games, the kind of reboots, Origins, yep, Odyssey and Valhalla.
All been well received.
Very well received, gangbuster numbers. And reading between the lines and reading the lines themselves, it looks like Assassin's Creed is being turned into almost like no, I don't want to say games as a service, because I don't believe it's a games as a service, but I feel like, have you heard this rumour that Grand Theft Auto, the next one apparently is going to be Vice City, and all the other cities, San Andreas and stuff, and Los Santos are going to be added on as like an ever-growing map, like Fortnite. Yeah, they're just going to add stuff.
I think that works really well for Grand Theft Auto. I'm not sure that works for Assassin's Creed, personally.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the blog post. I've trimmed bits out, but what's your take on this?
I've seen like people banding about, oh, there's going to be like a games as a service stuff, but nothing you've just read actually, I think, points in that direction. For what they've been doing is Montreal and Quebec have been alternating which game they release for the last couple of releases. Mm-hmm. But I think what they've done is, what they seem to be saying is, instead of alternating studio and just going like, you do this one, we'll do that one, you do this one, you'll do that one, it's like, let's just pull resources and all focus on the one game.
Yeah, in a way.
I think that's a really good idea, to be honest, because one of the things Assassin's Creed is, not so much recently, but in the past has come under criticism for, is trying to annualize the franchise, or it feels like even Valhalla, I think you mentioned things like character models, apart from key characters, looked a bit shoddy. And now what they're saying is we've now effectively doubled the size of our team working on the next game in the franchise. But that might mean that there's bigger delays between them, potentially. But I think most people are going to be okay with that.
Yeah, because we've seen them slow down a bit. Obviously, it was getting to a saturation point with Assassin's Creed where we were having yearly installations and installments.
It was yearly installments, but it was also, especially on PC, came along with just completely bug hell. Like Unity on release on PC was unplayable. There's stuff like that. That was the bad days of Ubisoft.
Yeah, they stretched themselves too thin, I think, and got a bit over the top.
They got obsessed with the idea of the franchise has to be annualized. So regardless of condition, just chuck it out. That's what seemed to be the case for a while.
Yeah.
But Ubisoft moved on from that.
Yeah. So
and this seems to be the next step.
So you think this is because again we don't really know much detail on it. People are theorising as you do from that article, from what they've got, and from what some of the other news outlets have pulled through. Essentially, it looks like more focused, in tune Ubisoft. They're gonna. I appreciate the saying they're just gonna take the talent, because I do think there must be something lost, shifting around from studio to studio. They obviously have an overarching umbrella to try and pull the narrative threads together, but anyone who's played an Assassin's Creed game will know the narrative is getting a bit hectic right now because they jump all over the place. It's
quite convoluted, and the thing is, it's almost like what we've seen. If you go back to the MCU as a very good example, is you've had a couple of people at the top, Kevin Feige, directing the way the franchise has evolved. This is the progression. Then different directors worked under them. It seems to be almost a similar idea where, Quebec might be focused. It might be a case of Montreal, you're going to focus on building this game. Quebec, you're going to be focusing on the DLC for the current game and rotate stuff like that round. But by basically almost semi-merging the studios, you've got like a couple of people now at the top of the franchise, and it's very succinct. Like, we're controlling this entire franchise now. It's not going. You're not going to be like, okay, it's time to start planning the next game. Give Montreal, give Quebec a ring, see what they were doing, what their plans for going forward are, because they'll all know it. Because everyone should be on the same page. So I think this could be a really good thing for the franchise.
Yeah. So digging a little bit deeper then, so the Bloomberg article does state that the Assassin's Creed franchise will still be released via multiple games within their own creative teams.
Yeah.
But they're going to be connected in some way by Infinity. So it sounds like we're not going to get away from the bi-yearly iteration. So I don't know about you, but I fully expect an Assassin's Creed game for next year, like back end of 2022.
Yeah, like it might instead of every other year, it might be every 3 years. It might still be every other year. But the fact that they're saying they're connected, but they're again Odyssey, Valhalla, and Origins were all connected.
I think they mean in a similar manner to what Activision are doing with Call of Duty. I think the way they're saying the blog post about the way the industry's changed, and anything they do now has to reflect what's going to happen in years to come. This game sounds like it's still a couple of years out, but what I think they're gaining is Warzone is ever present. It has a season pass, but then they still have their yearly Call of Duty's drop.
Right.
So I think there's going to be Assassin's Creed Infinity, whatever this looks like. There's still going to be bi-yearly like campaign modes essentially, and they are all going to feed in. So, for example, if Infinity already existed right now, Richie, and you picked up Assassin's Creed Valhalla, things you do in Valhalla will affect your character potentially in Infinity.
So right, I'm with you.
So if you're a huge fan, and you know like Ubisoft does with all its other games, like you get a Valhalla tag in Rainbow Six Siege for your gun, it's like a little trinket. I think it's like that.
Every year you get, maybe the game is planned to run for 5 years, 5, 6, 7 years, and every year you get a new season pass, which adds new content, progresses the story.
Yeah,
and it's not just at the moment. I know you very much like the DLC for Assassin's Creed, but it's very much side content that is.
Yeah.
Apart from the occasional thing, I'd say Atlantis was pivotal to the overall story, but it's trivial side stuff.
Yeah, so
it's just like, okay, he's your next big chapter in this content. What's the word I'm looking for? They've turned it into a serialized.
Yeah, it always has been in a weird way.
It's episodic. They turned Assassin's Creed episodic.
Yeah, so
in a very different kind of way.
Yeah, which it kind of gets me excited because you were saying there about the DLC. You're not usually one for jumping back into the DLC. I've only done it more recently. I went back in Origins, kept me coming back for. It was like every few months I went back to Origins because it was a beautiful game. It's one I feel like I favoured it over Valhalla if I'm honest, and possibly even Odyssey when I think back in hindsight. But that was great, and then Odyssey did the same thing, and then Valhalla not so much at the moment, because I think there's just so much other things to play, and I play on Stadia now as well, and there's so many games we get flung at us. But with this ever-present Assassin's Creed Infinity, whatever it ends up being look like, I feel like that could fill the void of DLC. Whenever I've got that itch to play some Assassin's Creed gaming, if I go into Infinity as my custom assassin character, which is Chris, it's not a character they've wrote for me, this is my own character in Infinity. And because I did Valhalla, because I did Odyssey, because I did all the other games, my character gets perks and maybe free costume DLC and stuff to play out whatever Infinity looks like. And then when I'm done with Infinity, it doesn't matter because it's supposed to be a game. So it's like something I keep coming back to whenever I get that itch. It's not meant to be a campaign where you play it and finish it. And I think this is what Ubisoft are trying to do. We've seen it across all their other titles. Yeah. They're trying to get into that repeat, bringing you back. And they've done it with Valhalla with the 2-year support plan.
I don't like the sound of that personally, because I like to play a game as much as I want to play it, then move on. I don't want to, like, I haven't played in about 3-4 months, then jump back in and what's this character? How does it play again? Yeah. Like, because they've wrote a new story. I would rather them actually not do DLC full stop and put more effort into releasing new titles rather than, because unless DLC, because usually for me, by the time for something like Assassin's Creed, you're looking 60+ hours by the time you've rolled credits.
Yeah.
And that's assuming that you're not doing all the side content, which is a significant piece of time to spend on a single game. That might be a month's worth of gaming. So usually by that time that's up, I'm ready to move on. So I was like, I don't want to just keep going back to the same thing over and over again. So when I'm ready to move on, so like then the new DLC comes out, I'm probably not that interested at that point.
Yeah.
So it might be a couple of months before I'm interested again. And by that point, I look at it and go, but then I have no idea how to play the game, what my character was doing, all that sort of stuff. So I think it does have a bit of a flaw there.
So obviously, there's two parts to that, I think, from your point of view. Obviously, they've said this is for years to come. The industry, we know the industry's been flipped on its head because of Fortnite and Call of Duty and this games as a service model. I don't think this is for us as classic video game players who love a campaign, in and out, finish the game, done. But when you do say there about the DLC for you, and you don't want to go back because you don't know where you're at in the story, maybe your own character in Infinity, who isn't tied to a campaign or story, could bring you back in though. You might not be interested in more Valhalla, but then if there's this ever-present world where I message you and say, Richie, do you want to jump in and do some of this?
A story, it's like, if you haven't played the game in 6 months and you pick up the controllers, like, how do I play this again? It's all that sort of stuff, like relearning the game, but you're already a high level, so like the muscle memory's gone. It's all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it being a blank slate character doesn't really interest me that much for Assassin's Creed, to be perfectly honest.
Okay. So this brings me on to my next point of why I think it could be good or bad. Assassin's Creed, for better or worse, has some fantastic characters. It has done Bayek in Origins, Cassandra or Alexios in Odyssey, Eivor, whichever version that you played in Valhalla, and obviously we all go back to it, but Ezio Auditore Differenze. Come on. I don't even need to mention that. And all the other ones, Edward Kenway and all the people in between. The problem with these games, and every single time they bring out a new iteration, you have to get to like them again. The reason Ezio was so good is he got 3 games, and you learn him as a character from a young teenage, like a young boy, parents killed, spoilers, but he evolved into who he ended up being.
Yeah, his story continued, but your character almost reset. So when you jumped into Brotherhood, you weren't just jumping into maxed out Ezio from the previous game. You got to learn a new set of skills, new techniques, relearn how to play the game, and that was built into, because it was a new game, but a continuation of the story. By the sounds of what you've seen, Infinity might be with this continuous stream of new content getting added. You're going to be jumping in exactly where you left off.
So it's an interesting one, because I would have quite happily took an Origins 2. I didn't need... Obviously, Odyssey was great, but I didn't need Odyssey next. I would quite happily done way more stuff in that beautiful ancient Egypt landscape that they painted a picture. The end of the game, like, not spoilers for a game that's like 5-year-old at this point, but it's getting towards the Romans being involved with Egypt. And you've got Julius Caesar and stuff, and it only scratched on that right at the end of the game and what was going to happen with the Assassin's Order being created.
Yeah.
And that was after 100+ hours of a beautiful game. So it kind of was like,
Yeah,
and then you just leave the characters and it's like, I might never
that's
see them
one where-
again.
That's one where the number 2 could have been, if they didn't want to go with Bayek anymore, you could have went with, I don't know, Bayek's child. So Bayek's still around, but you've maybe you're 15, 20 years in the fairer fields, so the Romans are more involved and you're playing through that, so the story's evolved.
And it could have went
But I
back
don't
to
know.
Rome.
I think for me, there's a lot of skepticism around this game. I'm not convinced. I'll probably know when I see it, but there's some of the things that we're saying is like that's exactly what I don't want in a game.
Yeah, I can see it from both sides. Obviously, they've said they're not. That doesn't mean you're not going to get your bi-yearly iterations. You'll still get your campaign and whatever.
Yeah, but I'm not saying this is good or bad. But if it is this continuous thing where you just keep jumping this games as a service style models, like, yeah, I'm probably not that interested in it.
Okay, so
yeah,
my vision for this, Richie, if I was bag put over my head, dragged into Ubisoft headquarters, and they were like, right, how do you know everything you're about to say? My version of this is we get a new character for Assassin's Creed Infinity. Yeah. We don't go back to Desmond. We drop all of that shit. It's called Assassin's Creed Animus. You can take that to the bank, Ubisoft. And the world is just current day. You have like a current day like mini world or something, your hub world, a la Destiny or something like that.
Yeah.
And you get in the Animus and you can go to the world of Assassin's Creed 2, Italy. You can Renaissance Italy. You can go to ancient Egypt through a different door. You can go to medieval. You can go to feudal Japan. All through different segments that can either tie into the main story game. So if you've got an itch for going back to Origins, plug into the Animus, go to Origins. It might not be the Origins game, or it could be, and it could be a way of Assassin's Creed Infinity. We've seen it on Stadia. All the games from coming across to the Ubisoft Plus service. How many times have we spoke about Ubisoft thinking big, wide net picture? Imagine if Infinity brings all of their old games under one umbrella, and your default character is the link to them all via some fancy DNA Animus storyline. You don't have to know about the other shit, but you've just got this central hub that links you into what we must be on coming up 2 decades of Assassin's Creed content now. And they've remastered loads.
They've upgraded the Animus as long as you have a sample of the DNA, anyone can access them memories.
Yeah, any Emery memories. So yeah, if you were like, oh, you know what, I was a Black Flag fan. I dropped off after Black Flag. Well, you know what, they remastered it. It's coming out. You've got Ubisoft Connect. It links all back together. Jump into your Assassin's Creed Animus or Infinity, whatever it ends up being, and just go play more Black Flag. Up-res, 4K, all that shit that they love doing. And then if Black Flag, if they see a spike in Black Flag, guess what? Infinity Season Pass, pirate content. You loved it. And this is the thing with seasons. Fortnite does it all the time. They just take whatever's popular and go with it and run with it. So Infinity is going to be definitely one to watch.
It's definitely one to watch. And from what you're saying, it sounds like a cool concept, I think, but only on the surface. It's like, because then at what point, why does it need all to be connected?
Because of MCU.
But that's the thing I'm coming with. Like, okay, you're creating your own character for the the real world segments, fine. Having any character be able to access any sort of era that Assassin's Creed's been in, I like that. But then it's like, you're basically pitching that these are going to be separate games anyway, just within, almost like the Hitman world of Assassination, where they are still 3 different games, but just sandwiched together.
Yeah. And
my question is, why do they need to be sandwiched together?
Yeah. That's again, this is one that Ubisoft think it's for the future, but we can't predict that. A big thing for me, this obviously hasn't been done before. Third person, like, you've got Battle Royale, but that's its own thing. It doesn't need tweaking that much to give a season pass. Story-based content, we know there's a lot more that has to go into it. Script writing and voice actors and such. I'm very again, as an Assassin's Creed fan, I was always going to be more interested in this anyway, but. Yeah, I think Ubisoft, they've got plans of grandeur, and they have done for some time now. And some stuff weren't landed well, some stuff hasn't landed well. So
I'm worried they're taking the franchise in a direction that it doesn't need to go in, just because they're the trends in the industry. It almost feels like the marketing execs are making decisions rather than the game developers. Instead of going, right, this is the vision for the game, we're going to make an awesome game. They're looking at, what's trending well. What can sell well? Which I know it's a business. There's got to be a lot of that, but
true.
I think sometimes this sort of stuff can alienate some of your audience.
I mean, if you're gonna highlight that, you can't look any further than pivoting towards a total Witcher-esque RPG. 3 games back, how many people dropped off because they were like, Origins isn't Assassin's Creed. It's a totally different game.
Yeah.
You're right. Early doors for me, I was like, oh, I don't know, this roll and dodge thing. This isn't Assassin's Creed. 10 hours in, I was like, fuck it, this is awesome. Like, give me more. And I bought into it, but there is a slice of the audience, like you said, Rich, you get set aside, they don't like it, they look back with fond memories, and time waits for no one. Games evidently wait for no one. Franchises evolve, and stuff doesn't stand still, but we'll watch this one. I think it's obviously a shoe-in for a Stadia title, right?
I'd say so, yeah. I mean, it's Ubisoft, so it's a shoe-in.
I mean, we're getting Assassin's Creed Rogue on Stadia, Richie, so if you're going to dig it deep into the barrel and get that one, then certainly I think the premium, ever-present Games as a Service title will be front and centre on Stadia, of course, along with everything else Ubisoft do, because they're our best friends, it would appear. Or the Stadia's best friends, at least. They're not ours.
Depends. If they make some of the stuff we've speculated in. Potentially.
We'll have to see. But that was story number 1. Went really deep on that one. We always were going to. But story number 2 for the week. A bit of ruckus out there, Richie, in the Twitter sphere. We got a game drop that's been a highly anticipated game. Tom from our very own Sounds of Stadia team was massively looking forward to this title. We mentioned it imminently coming out on last week's show, but Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, the spiritual successor to Castlevania Symphony of the Night, from way back when. Really well, highly rated game. People were excited for it. It came out, Richie, on Stadia. Yes. It had the audacity, some would say, to drop for £59.99 Great British pounds. So nearly £60 for a 2D side-scrolling platformer, albeit the spiritual successor. And everyone, myself, Tom, you included, were like, no, I am not.
We saw the time like, oof, God, that's asking.
No, that is asking. Which then, of course, everybody in the community went and rightly sort of did their due diligence on other platforms. PlayStation 4, £34.99. Xbox, £34.99. Switch, £34.99. Steam, usually £34.99. Half price sale at launch for $17.49.
That's the first thing I did when I saw the price. Like, that seems a bit steep. So I googled the price of other platforms and was like, yeah, you want to try again, Stadia?
Yeah, try again. Take it away. Give it a bit of a polish and come back with us with something new. And funnily enough, that's what happened, Richie. Less than 2 days later?
Yeah.
2 days later, it got a price cut down to $34.99, which is the true price reflection across all platforms bar Steam.
Do we know if this was a worldwide thing or was this just a UK thing? Because I'm not sure.
No, it was worldwide too. I think I saw people tweeting in Canadian. I saw people tweeting in currencies I don't even know existed out there in the world.
So it's like, is this an honest mistake that they put the wrong price in? Or is this suddenly bound pressure? Because that seems... It feels like if this was bound fan outrage, that's probably... They wouldn't care that much. It's like, this is the price we've agreed to sell at. This is the price it is.
Yeah, it's an interesting one to really dig into because we got no community blog this week.
Yeah, it's a £25 drop. That's almost half price of when all of a sudden... And then suddenly it's matching up with the others. I'm thinking it's a mistake. I'm reading this as an honest mistake.
Maybe one of them dollar to pound conversion machines that always screws us over. Screwed them over for once. But yeah, I guess we'll probably never know. But as I was saying there, we didn't get a community blog on Tuesday as per usual because it was 4th of July in America, United States. Yeah. Shout out to our American friends. I don't know if we said Happy 4th of July last episode, so I hope you had a great time with friends and family celebrating your very own Freedom Day, of course, from us lot. Him specifically, he did it.
Me.
But yeah, hope you had a great time. But funnily enough, Stadia, a little bit annoying in a way, is they said the Stadia blog couldn't get out because of the short week. Stadia exists outside of the United States. Again, like because there's a bank holiday, you could have scheduled a blog post to go up. I mean, like
Well, we discussed in our WhatsApp group. It's like we take a break every year over Christmas, and we still publish content in that period because we pre-record it.
Yep. And
that's...
Twitter's scheduled to put posts
Yeah.
up. And again, I don't want to make it a whole big thing, but it just as a global business, I feel like the Twitter account very much sometimes forgets that there's players all across the globe. And saying like, oh, there's no community blog because we've had an extended weekend. I don't think as a global business that can be an excuse to not inform.
I think this is where other platforms and stuff have, like Ubisoft have different. They have Ubisoft UK, for example. They have a UK dedicated one.
Yeah.
Dedicated Ubisoft, so any news that's UK specific can come through. So it's like,
yeah.
Well, I think with this being focused in America, the people who are working it, it's America. It's not fault. I don't think it's any fault of their own whoever handling the blog nowadays.
Oh no, definitely not.
They're just it's their bank holiday. It's their days off. They're like days off, and I think it's more of an organizational thing. They just need to realize as a whole, like, well, actually, you can write that. Make sure this is written before your break, and we'll just schedule it.
Yeah, just post it or something, whatever. But in regards to the price, we don't know if it was a mistake because there was no blog to say Bloodstained Ritual of Night is available now for $34.99. Everyone would have went, well, hang on a minute, in the store it's £60. That's clearly an error. Yeah. What I am curious to know, if anyone out there, viewers, listeners, purchased the game for full price, have you had an automatic email refund, or are you just gonna if you don't know about the news, you don't read the news, if you're not like us who stay tuned in, you could have just spent £60 a game that got a half price discount almost 2 days later.
Without digging into it, I did see that some people from over on Reddit are saying again automatic refunds or partial refunds.
Yeah.
So I think Google are addressing the situation, but if you have bought the game for full price, check your bank account, check your statements, reach out to Google if you need help.
If you need help, indeed. But interesting one. I have to ask Richie, $34.99. Will you be buying this game?
I wasn't going to buy the game full stop, so no.
Oh, okay, harsh. Tom.
Well, it's not harsh. It's just not
know.
Games for you. It's like.
Tom, of course, said. We reached out to Tom, who does still exist, of course, and he also will not be buying the game at $34.99 still.
Yeah.
Again, for me, I don't know whether it's the way I've just been conditioned, but for a 2D side-scrolling platform, I'm not paying $34.99. I picked up Death Stranding for £10 in my local supermarket the other day, and I just think...
If you're big into Metroidvanias, for a brand new Metroidvania that is received very well, I don't think it's necessarily a terrible price. But for someone who isn't big into the Metroidvanias, it's a bit steep for me. But there again, if it was £20, I probably still wouldn't be buying it because it's not my sort of game. It's not a game I can't remember looking at going, I really want to play that. Yeah. So
I would have predicted sub £20 would have been the sweet spot, like $18.99. Again, it's a 2D side-scrolling platformer that.
Barring a stale on Steam, it's price match with every other platform, so I don't think you can complain that much. That's just how much the game sells for.
If it sells at all. But I guess we'll never know. Let us know in the comments below if you did pick up the game for full price, or let us know if you're still picking up even though it's dropped down, or you're not.
Yeah.
I'm very curious to know how it does. So let's dig on to the next story. Third story of the week, Richie. CD Projekt Red, makers of The Witcher 3.
Yes.
Or all the Witchers, I guess, not just The Witcher 3. And of course the ever-troubled Cyberpunk 2077. Of course, runs fantastic on Stadia. They've acquired a new studio, so Canadian Digital Scapes Game Development Studio in Vancouver have been picked up. Both companies have been in a close cooperation since 2018, and it looks like they've finally put a ring on it and purchased them.
Yeah.
Not really much more to dig into. They haven't given us any information about future projects or anything.
Yeah, from what we know of this studio that they've worked on, they're focused on AAA development, but I think they seem to be more of a support studio. But I think it's also focused a bit more on multiplayer development. And we have to remember that Cyberpunk was planning to have a multiplayer game, so I'm guessing that's their involvement with Cyberpunk, was probably working on the multiplayer stuff.
Yeah, free multiplayer.
And now they've been brought under CG Projekt Red banner, full stop, properly, and excited to see what they come up with.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what Cyberpunk's going to end up being in the long term? Will we look back on it in 10 years' time and it'll be revered as a classic like The Witcher 3 very much is? But this is obviously CD Projekt Red maybe spending some of the many, many millions they still made regardless of how it was received upon launch. It only just recently came back out on PlayStation 4, even though we should point out when you open up the description it says you recommend to play this on the PlayStation 4 Pro or PS5. So even the newer version that's gone up on the digital stores for PlayStation still suggests you do not play it on a PlayStation base, which is crazy that it's still allowed. But we don't have to worry about that here in the cloud, of course. In terms of the games, though, I'm guessing this is them just understanding that maybe their workload on Cyberpunk got away from them, and it took them a long time in development, and they still didn't get it finished on time. And I think this is a way of them expanding, not only outside of Poland, which is probably good for business. You've got a global brand. You ideally need a global business. So moving to the other side of the world in Vancouver adds a different dynamic to your team as well.
And they've also talked about having like a couple of different temples to the CG Projekt Red banner, different series, probably The Witcher, probably Cyberpunk, and maybe a few others. Mm-hmm. But from Digital Escape Studios' website, there's on the About Us saying some of the things that bullet point is video game console and PC game development, multiplayer gameplay programming, combat and mission design, animation, production tools and pipelines, cloud services, analytics and R&D.
So a bit of everything.
So yeah, do a bit of everything. But the big one the two that stand out for me is multiplayer and cloud servicing for this.
Yeah.
So maybe they're going to be a support studio, maybe they're going to be a studio that focuses on one of the titles. Who knows? Let's see.
Let's see indeed. So time will tell. Probably won't find out for another 2 or 3 years yet. I think they did give the roadmap for, it was like patch 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 1 million, and then I think there is it's either
they give about 1 million roadmaps though because they kept pushing dates back.
Yeah, multiplayer was this year if I'm not mistaken, or maybe early next year.
I think that might be scrapped.
I don't think they'd scrap it. That seems like a risky thing to go back on. So then anyone who bought the game for some crazy multiplayer, it's got scrapped. Was it the single player that maybe scrapped, like DLC?
Reading from Tech Radar from March 2021, it looks like Runners of Night City won't be able to team up after all, as Cyberpunk 2077's multiplayer follow-up has been cancelled following a strategy update. So yeah.
Wow. Ooh, okay. I mean, I don't think anyone bought that for multiplayer, but I would have liked to see some kind of multiplayer Cyberpunk.
Yeah,
like the world's beautiful.
I really enjoyed Cyberpunk, and I didn't have too many issues when I played it. A few bugs, but
you finished it, right?
Yeah, I rolled credits.
Wow.
Didn't do all the trophies and stuff, but it's a game I probably will go back to as well.
Interesting. Well, let's see if it has the same coattails as The Witcher 3 had, because quite frankly, if The Witcher 3 came out on Stadia now, I'll be all over that. And just Cyberpunk can stay at the side.
For me, they need to completely fix everything broken with that game to a standard where people give it almost like a No Man's Sky redemption. Go, oh yeah, it's Cyberpunk is finally good before they start bringing on new content. With it, just how sullied it has been, it's received quite well in the Stadia community and parts of the PC gaming community.
Yeah,
but on consoles, especially PlayStation, it's looked upon very unfavorably. So they need to fix that reputation before bringing out new content. Yeah. Otherwise, you're just going to get, why are you bringing out new content for a crap game?
That's a fair point, yeah. Of course, PlayStation 5's Xbox Series X weren't that out in the wild at the point of launch as well. It launched the same week of, so now there's millions more out there.
But they're still hard to get your hands on.
Those damn silicon chips. We'll never get.
And the world's moved on from Cyberpunk as well.
Yeah, that too. You're not in the zeitgeist anymore.
So all the people who didn't have a PS5, who had a PS4 and then couldn't buy the game or managed to buy the game and it was a broken mess, are you winning them back over?
Only time.
That's a hard ask. It's possible, but it's hard.
And it's not cheap. Speaking of not being in the zeitgeist anymore, though, obviously we said we were going to dig deep for some stories that may be Stadia specific this week. This one's kind of more in your wheelhouse, Richie, as someone who's checked out, was completed E3 recently, and you've also played one of the trials. Well, we should say that trials. So I'm gonna say it now, and then we'll go to the Retcon ritual. So I don't know. Actually, we'll have to do the Retcon ritual first before I say it. So
do the Retcon ritual.
I'll hand it over to you. What have we? This is the longest Retcon ritual in the existence of the show. 94 episodes we're up to now.
And we're all three of us members of Sounds of Stadia guilty for this, and potentially even some guests.
The viewers as well.
None of you has called us out on this until it was only today, as we're pulling this story together, that I realised we've been calling it the wrong bloody thing since we started talking about Trials.
Yeah.
Because it's Legend of Heroes Trails. It's AI, not IE. We've been reading it wrong for months.
Yes, in fact. We must have been speaking about the Trails games over a year ago. So
probably, yeah. So it's Trails.
Mind blown.
Can't believe we did that.
Go check it, everyone. Look at the Stadia source articles, look at everything. I've been calling it Trials of Cold Steel for as long as I knew those games existed. Because one, Trials of Cold Steel sounds like a badass name for a game. Trails of Cold Steel, not so much in my opinion. But yes, it's spelled Trails, which is Trails.
Yeah.
Not Trials.
Yes.
My word, Richie. How have we let that one slip for so long?
I don't know, but we corrected it eventually. We may not be punctual, but we'll get there in the end. Hashtag Sounds of Stadia.
Yeah. Also, punctual, grammatical, two different things, which obviously one of them we're worse at.
Well, in terms of correcting ourselves, we weren't punctual.
That's true. And so the kind of news pertaining to these two games, and the reason it blipped on our radar is Trails from Zero and Trails from Azure, confirmed for Western release. It is
and
PS4.
Trails into Reverie.
Oh, another one, Trails into Reverie.
Yeah.
So these games have been out for a while. They've just been over in the East, so they've never came over to the Western gaming world. These game announcements, very, very brief. Officially titled Trails from Zero, Trails from Azure, is a duology, and then you said is there two more or one more?
There's Trails into Reverie. So the Trails games, The Legend of Heroes is the overarching title. Then it seems to be the Trails is a sub-series in that, and they are continuous games. So it is like they are kind of episodic, but episodic in the idea, the JRPG. So you could probably put 100 hours into each episode. Yeah. We already have Trails of Cold Steel 3. We know 4 is coming. Then there's also 2 PSP games that are getting ported forward. Legend of Heroes Trails from Zero and Trails into Azure they were initially launched in 2010, 2011 on the PSP, and they're getting ported forward. We don't know if they're coming to Stadia yet, but there's a good reason to suspect they are. And then also Trails into Reverie was a 2020 initial release, and that is getting ported to the West in 2023.
Okay.
And on top of that, there's Legend of Heroes Kuro no Kiseki, which seems to be another series in the Trails game, from what I can tell, is getting launched in Japan this year, but there's no announced Western release for that.
So, in a nutshell,
it's a lot of games.
a lot of games, obviously not confirmed for Stadia, but with the relationship they've now got with it's Famicom, right? The developer, I believe, Famicom.
Neon Falcom.
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 Right. So the fact that we've got the two most recent ones, we got the East games as well. Yeah. We theorised at the time we think Stadia are making a big play for the kind of the JRPG market, bringing them games over into the cloud, of course, because these games don't exist currently anywhere in the cloud. And could Stadia be a great home for that, especially with how in Japan they're very much more about their on-the-move tech. We know how well the Switch has done, the Vita's done better there than most places. Mobile gaming is huge in Japan because they just like being on the move, it would appear.
Yeah.
And these being in the cloud could be fantastic. And
Interestingly, in North America, there's two noted publishers for them. I'm not going to go through which publishers which game. Xseed Games and NIS America. Don't really recognise them. I know I've recognised NES America from more recent things I've played, but in the EU, it's Namco Bandai.
Which do have that relationship with Stadia, so
yeah.
We'll have to see. Richie. Another again. It's 2022 and 23, so it's a little while off yet.
It's a potential four new games.
Potential. We'll see.
Although the 4 games that aren't confirmed to Stadia, and one of them isn't even confirmed to come to the West. Full stop.
Well, we'll have to wait. We'll have to wait and see. If we do know something that's been rated, at least our next star of the week is that Transformers Battlegrounds, not to be confused with the terrible WWE Battlegrounds. Of course, my opinion. It's been given an ESRB rating for Stadia. It was originally came out in last October 2020, so it's not too far back in the grander scheme of things. It's got its rating. It is made by Outright Games, of course, and published by Coatsink, who do have a couple of games on Stadia. We know Get Packed is one of those titles. This very much, to me, reminds me of if you've ever played War of the Monsters back in the PS2 era. It looks like you have your mechs, you can drive around as a truck, as Transformers do, or a vehicle, and you can transform into a fighting machine. Yeah. Not voiced by Hugo Weaving, who I think is Megatron, I want to say. I'm not a big Transformers guy.
Not me either at all.
But for some reason my brain's telling me, I need to check that fact now, but for some reason my brain is like, it's Hugo Weaving who does the voice of one of them. It might be Optimus Prime. I don't think it's Optimus Prime. Either way, we're 90s kids, Richie. We grew up while Transformers was all the rage. And for some reason, it mustn't have been on a channel that my family had, because I barely watched it.
Yeah, I think Transformers actually was more, is it 70s or 80s?
Really?
I think it might be a little bit before us.
I thought it was all the rage when we were kids still.
I think it might have been still about, but there was less stuff in the 90s.
Yeah, of course, and then Michael Bay took it and made it to the explosive action blockbuster it was. It turned Shia LaBeouf into the much clamoured actor that he got to take over the roles of Indiana Jones, and then he messed it up. And he's nowhere to be seen now, and he's in crazy videos with Sia.
Quick Google seems to be pretty much active from 84 all the way to present day.
So if the cat into the 90s when we were kids,
there
have been reruns and stuff. But Transformers Battlegrounds, nothing for me personally. It's another one of those maybe younger audience, either younger audience focused games or nostalgia focused games like Power Rangers Battle for the Grid. We seem to be seeing loads of these ratings, but nothing actually to fruition. All the DreamWorks games, Scrat's Nutty Adventure, the pony game, Spirited Away, or whatever it was called. Was it Spirited Away, or that's a different thing? Spirited Away is the Japanese movie.
The Studio Ghibli movie.
So Spirit, I think it might be called Spirit. Either way, we digress. Transformers, Battlegrounds, again, probably better than the WWE one, which is free on PlayStation Plus this month, funnily enough. Will I be playing it? No. I refunded it on Stadia. It was that bad. Tell you one thing I won't refund, because it's a great game, and we should really get back to it one time on a live stream. That is Destiny 2. Or Bungie, more we should say, have revealed that their next big reveal is coming on August 24th. So just over about, month and a half away. Destiny 2 fans out there, you will soon find out more about the future of the game, as Bungie will be hosting a showcase event. It's cool that it gets its own event. It's big enough to get its own standalone thing. They're going to reveal...
It's one of them games where it becomes a hobby into itself.
Yeah. They're gonna. We've got some friends who we know put their entire lives into it, like
hundreds of hours a week,
thousands. Upcoming expansion,
millions of hours a week.
So you'll learn more about the Witch Queen of Angmar. It's not of Angmar. The teaser image Bungie shared gives some hints about what's in store, along with a tagline that reads "Survive the Truth." And there's a symbol that has been linked to Savathun, the hive, which the Witch Queen is also known as the Queen of Lies, the deceitful sister, which certainly have a connection to Survive the Truth line. I love how it's got its own world and lore and everything now, and I know that's why Destiny is so old. It's so rich in just content. If you dig, you will just go deeper and deeper and deeper into all this mythology. It's fantastic.
As someone who used to play World of Warcraft quite extensively, I know what that sort of level of lore is all about. Like, if you don't know it, you read stuff, it's like, I have literally no idea what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
But if you know it, you're into it.
So we should also point out, any Destiny players out there will know that the Witch Queen content was delayed to 2022 earlier this year, partially because of COVID-19 impact. The studio, of course, had been looking about maybe shifting to annual expansions instead. Probably for the health of the team, they said, just with everything that's been going on and crunch and all that kind of stuff. As we alluded to with the Assassin's Creed stuff, it's hard to make games as service content and stick to the roadmap. We saw it tear Avengers up with the fact that here we are, we still don't have... Richie, people bought Avengers on PlayStation to play Spider-Man. The game is out coming up a year in this autumn.
Yes, are out.
So what you bought the game for a potentially specific reason, and you're just waiting. So we're getting War of Wakanda again delayed, like the Hawkeye stuff delayed, and this is again games as a service. COVID aside, it's hard to stick to it. Maybe there's someone up there, Bill, the Spider-Man stuff. He's like, oh shit, I've had that sat in my on my desktop folder for about 6 months now. Was that supposed to publish that? Yes, it was supposed to come out in line with the last Avengers movie, Bill. Shit. Okay, I'll get on that. Bill turned my lights off. He heard me.
Bill got angry.
He's like, don't you be talking about me. So yeah, we know crunch is difficult. Obviously, Destiny 2, they've been doing it for so long now, and they keep seeing that bump in users. And it was arguably, Richie, the front runner of games as a service. I can't think of anything that predates Destiny. That was like, obviously, World of Warcraft. I'm talking console.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like games as a service is something that came about later as a way of describing like things like MMOs. Because for a long time, Destiny resisted the title of MMO, but it is clearly an MMO.
You're right there.
So yeah, it depends like how far back you want to go. Because there's the games from like well back, like late 90s that could be described as games as a service. The Sims could almost be described as games as a service.
Oh, I love me some Sims.
Me too. I like Sims.
Sims on Stadia. Bring it across.
Perfect place for it.
Yeah, that was one of our first, I think, episodes for Stadia. We anticipate what games we might even talk about it as part of the SideQuest episode this week. Maybe. Talking about the EA Play predictions, which we'll get to in just a moment. But they should be everywhere. So yeah, Formula 1 2021 is down. 2020 is down. 2021 doesn't exist as far as Stadia is concerned. So that's a big shame. It's a big miss. Again, we've said before, we'll worry about annual franchises not making their way across year on year. Again, if FIFA doesn't come, which we theorise it will be, but if it doesn't come, that'll be a big miss again. Which brings me on, Richie, before we move on, I'd like to, of course, stop in with our good friends over at 2K, the Mafia Trilogy. Here we go. The Mafia Trilogy Definitive Edition, of course, which was supposed to be out. It was announced for Stadia in a Connect, if I recall. I can't even remember really now. It's been that long ago. But well before Avengers came out, I should point out.
4 years ago?
No, not that long. But, the original game. So the Definitive Trilogy that was told we were coming came out on 25th of September 2020, which feels so long ago. It was 286 days ago, Richard. We're coming up on 300 days since it was announced, and neither Stadia, nor the developers, nor the publishers have said a thing about this game. Is it even coming anymore? I don't know, and I don't care.
It'll be a pro game in August.
You know what? I'm not even going to play it out of pure spite, because the communication is embarrassing from all parties involved, really. You can't announce something and just go radio silent for nearly a year.
If they announced it and then went radio silent and then just before its launch started talking about it again, fine, but it's already out on other platforms.
Yeah.
That's the problem here. It's not that the game's taking a long time to come.
That's
it's
it, yeah.
It's taking a long time after it's already been launched on other platforms.
Yeah, I think that's what stings the most. It's like, it's all coming out, everyone can enjoy it. And then it came out on PS4 and Xbox and stuff, and we were like, Stadia mustn't be that far behind. And it's literally, at this point, nearly 300 days behind, and they've not said anything. They should have came out near launch on other consoles and said, it'll be delayed slightly because of porting issues or something. At this point, I'm curious if it's just one bloke in the porting department trying to get this thing out the door, because 300 days. Bill's cousin, Trevor, yeah. Don't turn the lights off. Yeah. Sorry. Either way, yeah. Don't care about it anymore, but I'm going to keep ranting until they bring it to just finally put it in the news that it's finally out, and I don't care. Speaking of things that are rarely in the news as well, and I also don't really care that much, Atari are making a comeback, Richie. Don't call it a comeback. Atari, of course, for me, soft spot in my heart for Roller Coaster Tycoon. But essentially, Atari. Yeah. Atari, they bought the rights off Chris Sawyer, after the original
and then they went crap, didn't it?
And then they went shit, yeah. But they own the rights. They've done Roller Coaster Tycoon Classic, which is just the old ones on like a tablet and such. But I've got so good memories of Roller Coaster Tycoon. I know a lot of our viewers and listeners do as well.
I played it fairly recently, actually.
You did? I remember you saying it. Yeah, that was because you listened to the No Clip documentary, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I was it's before I started East, I think. I was just like dabbling in a few different little smaller games.
And great potential for Stadia because of the mouse and keyboard, and you can play it on the move. That'd be cool. But essentially, the story is Atari's gaming division has announced a significant rejig of its strategy, moving away from free-to-play and mobile games in favour of premium PC and console games. So they look like they're making a stretch back into where the cool kids hang out, Richie.
Yeah.
They're going to sell off some of their old titles, which don't really get supported that much. I won't even bother to name the titles because they're that pointless. I've never heard of them before.
If it's like the mobile game stuff, then it makes sense. If we're not making these, we'll sell off the assets to whoever makes mobile games. We'll take the money and reinvest.
Yeah. And I quote, they've also said, successful games with a loyal user base are not affected. So basically, the games that do well, we're just going to keep going. They've got a catalogue of over 200 games, dating well back to the days, of course, Pong. And I'm trying to think what my brain's trying to do right now.
Atari, one of the 10 poles of video gaming pre-Nintendo.
That's how old they are, yeah. Asteroids.
Atari were massively mixed up in the big video game, like, kind of disaster around like ET. Like basically the thing with the gaming industry almost wasn't a thing anymore in the West until Nintendo bought the NES with Mario and Zelda and basically restarted it. Atari is a kind of central to all that era of gaming.
And there's a documentary on Netflix about it. I can't remember what it's called. Something about gaming. Asteroid, Centipede, Missile Command, and Pong, of course, are some of the titles. Not great games by today's standards, but they are classics in their own right. So who knows? Could see some Atari games on Stadia. They could just go into brand new publishing with some new IP. Hell, they could turn Asteroids into like a Star Wars Squadrons crazy 3D modern high spec ray tracing killer app. But I guess time will tell with that one.
I think it's very much a time will tell, because I can't remember the last game like Atari even published to like a high standard. They've published they've been in publishing for a long time, so
I mean, their fall from grace has been stellar over the last few decades. Which brings us on to the final story of the week, Richie. Speaking of falling, Gods Will Fall is getting some new DLC.
Oh my god, Atari published The Witcher?
No, the OG.
The Witcher.
They're going to say Witcher 3. I was like, don't. After we just slandered them, don't throw it under the bus for that. See, that's crazy. Gods Will Fall, of course, as I just mentioned, is getting its next bit of DLC. It's Gods. Oh, what was the name of it? I've already forgot it, Richie. Gods Will Fall.
Dormant Gods Part 2.
Right, yeah. So it's Dormant Gods Part 2. It's available now if you're still playing Gods Will Fall. So why do my brain always thinks I'm speaking of another game? Is it Godfall? Right, Godfall is out. It's a thing.
Godfall is the PlayStation 5 exclusive.
Yeah, and it's about to get a PS4 port in the next week or so. So it's probably in my mind. Godfall, Gods Will Fall. So yes, Valley of the Dormant Gods Part 2, the second of 3 episodes, is coming out on Stadia. That's it's out now on Stadia. Thanks to the video told me about that.
Yeah.
Clever beans. Deep Silver, of course, published that one, part of the THQ Nordic and Embracer Group. And that brings us, Richard, to an end of this week's shows and games.
It does indeed.
Thank you to everybody else who wrote in with your questions. I do apologise we didn't get round to everyone's questions. In fact, you know what? I'm just realising right now I don't think we read any questions out at all.
No, we didn't. We asked for questions and we didn't read them.
That's terrible. Everyone's listening to this thinking they're going to get to my questions soon. Should we just do a quick question time for those out there?
Yeah, we can do. We can do one. Your pick.
I don't have the document up. You pick a question for us.
All right, I'll pick a question.
You just go. Let's just rattle through some questions while we've got a few spare minutes.
Right, because it was kind of linked to a story we did earlier, I'm going to read when I find it. Fabled Alpaca wrote in, do you think it's fair that some games on Stadia have a higher price point than other markets? Looking at this was around the Bloodstained things before, when it was set to like £25 higher than the rest. Given that you don't need to buy any physical device, possibly a controller if you don't have one, is it fair or justified? So I think we'll put Bloodstained aside for this question because we've already addressed it. Yeah, and it's now the same price. Do you think it's fair?
It's digital storefronts full stop. It's kind of a double-edged sword because it's great you get the games immediately. The massive downside to that is you're beholden to whatever they say goes. You've got no shop you can go into and just rummage through a bargain bin or wait for it to degrade in price. You're essentially beholden to whoever, Stadia, Sony, PlayStation, Xbox, Microsoft, whoever, just says, no, this game is £50. If it's popular and you want to play it, it's £50. but you get it instantly. So it's like the benefit of that in this game with cloud gaming, we know you click to play and you're in the game in 10 seconds flat. It's weird because there's no manufacturing costs involved. It's just a digital file that's shared. We all know emails are free, YouTube's free, Twitter's free. Yes. So it's like in a digital world, you don't pay for as much as you probably should realistically. Like imagine if we got charged to use Twitter, Richie. £10 a month subscription to use Twitter.
Well, they did bring out a Twitter subscription thing, didn't they?
Did they?
I'm sure there is something.
That's
anyway
off topic, choice. Yeah. But yeah, in terms of games, it's justifying it's hard because it's all in context, right? It's art, it's a creative thing. Someone might value it. I mean, look at just paintings to branch off. A painting by Picasso or something is worth millions and millions of dollars. But if I paint something, no one's going to buy it. It's all contextual, isn't it? So, yeah, is it justified? I mean, the industry is behind.
I mean, it's a different business model, cloud gaming to normal gaming. And when we do comparisons of prices, when we talk about games, I never look at the price. Very rarely do I look at the price in like Amazon or something. If I do, I will always go, this is the price that you can get on Amazon or on eBay or wherever. Usually if I say it's just this is the price on PlayStation, I'm talking about the PlayStation Store. Because I feel that's a more direct one-for-one comparison. But the thing is, it comes down to how Stadia makes money and how you invest in your money get your hobby. With PlayStation, you have to go £400-500 up front for the hardware before you can start buying games. If you go with the disc version, which is actually the reason I went the disc version, is because I cannot take opportunity of like things like Amazon sales. If you go digital only, you have the same issue with Stadia, and you're just beholden to the price of the single marketplace.
Yeah.
So for me, it really depends, and it depends on what the difference in price is. And I like to stay away from sales as well, because sales happen at different times in different marketplaces. So at the moment, as we know, Bloodstained, it's on sale on Steam. But if you're not in that ecosystem, if you don't have a gaming PC, then it being on sale on Steam doesn't matter. It doesn't change how you can buy that game.
Yeah, there's no like level playing field. It's an interesting one because it's not regulated by anyone because it's their own digital storefront. It's similar to Apple and the Google Store on your phone. That you just pay the fee, and I know Apple get loads of shit and Google do for charging app creators like a percentage cut, and if you don't pay it, you're not in their app store. But they own the store, so they kind of make the rules. So I'm sure in 10 years' time there's going to be all legal legislation, and governments are saying like consumer advocacy and all that kind of stuff.
I think gaming's largely managed to get by largely self-regulated in a lot of things. In mobile phones are ubiquitous, so everyone has them, and that's why like more Apple than Google actually, because Android's open source, so you can literally load on a different storefront if you want. Very true. Apple getting a little on the fire because if you have an iPhone, you have to have the Apple Store. You don't have a choice, and everything has to run through that. Therefore, what they set the price at is it is what it is. Yeah. It's an interesting one. Fire a lot from governments. But then at the same time, I think like, well, that's capitalism. Like, it's their store. They made it. It's up to them to do with it what they wish. If someone came to my house and said you can't have your couch in that corner, you need it in that corner because of some rule, I'd be like, get lost, mate. Yeah. So I think for me, ultimately, I don't think it matters that much if it's a similar price and you're paying a bit more for a cloud version. However, as someone who does have access to a PlayStation 5, a PC, a Switch, and Stadia, I'll probably just buy it if it's not in Stadia's best interests to put the price up too much, because if it's like £5 more on Stadia, I'm trying to get my point through. If it's £5 more on Stadia, I'm buying it on PlayStation. Wow. Yeah. Allergic to price hikes, Richie is. Yeah. But yeah, great question. Thank you, Simon, for writing in with that one. Of course, apologies for waiting till right at the end. We need to highlight it better in our doc going forward. But thank you for everyone who wrote in. It's bright yellow. Yeah, I don't know. I jump between links and documents and trying to host at the same time. It's a whole juggling thing. I think I've got it quite nailed down after 94 weeks. But here we are at the end of it, and I've just realised every time I take a drink, you get to see a little mini version of my face at the bottom of the glass. Are you ready for this? Yeah, I see it. audio versions, that I can say there is a tiny little version of his face in the bottom of his glass.
Just a little visual bit of humour for you viewers out there on youtube.com/Sounds of Stadia. That brings us to the end, the close of episode number 94. Don't forget to like if you haven't done so already. Subscribe to the channel so you're kept in the loop with all things Sounds of Stadia. Like our weekly podcast, like our live streams where we smash some Rainbow Six Siege out of the ballpark, where we do Let's Plays, first looks, and a bunch of other things as well. Check out the community page on the YouTube channel. Check out our Discord, where you can write in with your questions, which we'll forget about until the end of the show. Write in, it's in the chat. Get to know all these amazing people. All 50 plus of you who support the channel a little bit further as members and Patreon supporters. You're all amazing. You're all beautiful. We love you, all the world. Any more final things, Richie, for this week?
East Nine's out. I'm not buying it.
You going to sneeze again? Is it too expensive?
No. It's just I'm currently playing Immortals. I've just started Immortals, and it's $59.99. For me, from my experience with East 8, as much as I did enjoy it, that seems steep.
Okay, I've just thought of a way.
Around about the 40 mark is probably a bit better.
I've just thought of a way now with your new sneezing mutant ability to test if you know.
Sneezed once.
Yeah, but you sneeze at the perfect time to make a joke out of it. So Simon was asking about the pricing in games and stuff. All you have to do, Simon, is hold the price of the game under Richie's nose, and if it's too much, he sneezes. That's it. You have magical powers now, Richie.
I also have allergies. It's more just the allergies.
Some more than others. That's it. That's our close for episode number 94. Join us next week with a special guest. Yeah. But we're not going to tell you who. You're going to have to keep tuned to our Twitter page at Sounds of Stadia. Follow me at CyberChris. Follow Richie at RichieC89. And of course, go send Tom. What was the hashtag, Richie? Hashtag Happy Beans.
Happy Beans?
Happy Beans.
I'm glad you remembered that close to the doc already.
Over on Twitter. See you just wrapping up for the show, ready to go to bed, because this is nearly 11 o'clock. We're recording this ahead of time, which of course, to close out the show, Richie, fingers crossed, England won. Football came home. It
actually came home.
We shouldn't do it, but give me a score, Richie.
Oh.
Just go for it. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it.
Good team. 2-1 England. 2-1 England.
Okay, I'm going to go with 2-0 England for some reason, but hopefully, fingers crossed. If not, you can come and laugh at us in the comments and stuff, especially if you're Italian. Sorry. Or unlucky, I guess. We'll see. Take care, everyone. Have a great week in gaming. Don't forget to comment if you want to leave a question or just catch up with us, chat with us, whatever. And keep tuned for our special guest on episode 95 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast. My name's been Chris.
I've been Richie.
We've been Sounds of Stadia. You've been amazing. Take care, everyone. Have a great week. Game on. Goodbye.